and Tulare and anyone who is watching from their personal computer. So we have several presenters today who are going to talk to us about the strategic plan, and I'm going to have Greg start us off.
Standing room only. Yeah, go ahead. Okay, so the group that's in here now probably has seen this 1,000 or more times. In fact, every time you walk around campus, you probably see it. Is there a poster in here? No? Okay. This, of course, is our model for integrated planning, and we're focusing on the strategic plan part of that. If you were at our summit, you know that that's where the rubber meets the road. We start with the mission statement here. This is the sort of general statement that we have that focuses on our students and our general mission. Of course, I used the word mission in that. Then we go to the master plan, which you know we worked on last semester. We have our new master plan. In the master plan, we set up goals that were based on challenges. The goals, again, are the 50,000 foot. That's where the rubber is still in the stratosphere. Okay. Then we go down to the strategic plan, where we're focusing on today, where the rubber meets the road. That is our 3-year plan. Okay. What happens in that is we have objectives that are based on the goals from the master plan, and each objective has actions that will help us achieve the goals. Also, each of those objectives has a rationale for them, you know, how they're going to help us meet the goal, the data that was involved. And we also have, in the strategic plan, there are, of course, responsible parties, progress. All this stuff gets updated through every year through the annual, should be district probably, report on the master plan. Okay, this is where we're actually looking at the strategic plan. Keep in mind that the strategic plan also drives resource allocation, since it sets our agenda for the coming 3 years. It dictates really where we need to focus our resources. And I think that about covers it. And these are just some of the things that I was talking about right now. In the model itself, you know, it's a 3-year plan, what it has, the actions, assessment. Of course, we have to assess how the actions are helping meet the objectives, and it guides the allocation. So I went over that stuff in the context of the model.
Thanks, Greg. So where we are now is we have had a workshop that several groups came together and talked about the draft objectives and actions that Greg mentioned in the strategic plan. And then last weekend we had 70 people, community members, students, staff, faculty, and administrators get together and look at those drafts and make revisions. They critiqued it, added things. And today we're having an opportunity for the whole campus to do that as well and give those critiques. We haven't updated the information from last Saturday's summit. We are going to take that information and the information we get from today's meeting, and the Institutional Planning and Effectiveness Committee will look at all of that information and determine how to incorporate that into the draft. And then we will come out with the next draft that will go out to District Governance Senate and Academic Senate for additional feedback and approval. So that's where we are in the process. So to get us talking about the goals and objectives, I'm going to ask Dr. Robinson to come down.
So we know District Goal 1 we set for the master plan back a couple of months ago, and from that we know our overall geographic area is increasing in growth. We know that Kings County is going to increase by 35% and Tulare County by 42% from now until 2030. So we have set the objective for the next 3 years to overall district growth by 1.75% annually. We know in order to do this, we need to develop and implement a marketing plan, not only designed to increase enrollment district-wide, but also for the centers to get the Hanford Center to 1,000 so that we can get the $1.1 million, and also specific programs. We know, in addition, that we're going to look at increasing our outreach to local high schools. So whether this be increase our enrollment for concurrent enrollment to get those students in the pipeline to come to COS, and or have that be a first choice for our local students that are graduating. And then the last action that we have planned is to assess the progress and implement any changes. And with that, I will turn it over to Cindy Delane. Right? No, I'm sorry, Juan. Just jumping ahead.
Okay, district goal number 2 has to deal with how we as an institution are going to try to increase the percentage of our students who complete transfer as well as certificate degree programs here at the college. So as you can see, we have 5 objectives here, all of which we hope will support in helping us achieve district goal number 2. District objective 2.1, what we're looking to do is to increase the number or percentage of transfer directed students to become transfer prepared. What we found is in the data that over a 3-year period, 2009 to 2012, we experienced about a 2.3% increase. Some of that data, however, may have been driven because we saw a decrease in our overall student enrollment. So we need to figure out a better way of how to increase the percentage of our students to get there. And furthermore, this is required by the Student Success Scorecard for the state. 2.2 also again deals with increasing the percentage of students who are going to complete their degree and certificate programs here at the college, and this is annually. What we know is that as an institution, the college has a lower success rate or completion rate than statewide averages, so we need to remedy that. Also, based on the College of the Sequoia Student Equity Plan, there's been some data that shows that specific or certain student populations tend to lag further behind than the COS student body as a whole. 2.3 has to deal with retention. It's pretty hard to increase completion rates if our students are not persisting from one semester to another. So we're going to try to develop a plan on how to get our students from the fall to the spring semester. 2.4 deals with basic skills in English as a second language students. It's pretty clear the data has been reflective of students who place in these 2 categories or these 2 programs really do not successfully complete their educational programs. Basic skill students, we have a lot more than, as a whole, we have a lot more of these students than the state average does. And that's the same thing regarding the number of students who come from households in our district. We have a higher percentage of those students coming from households where English is not the primary language. 2.5 has to deal with career technical education programs. There has been an increase in attention on these programs really based on the student success and support program. We need to look at how we can improve the recent decline in the percentage of students who completed career technical education programs here. Next is Cindy Delane.
Okay. I think we need to move this balloon because someone's going to trip over it, which will probably be me. All right. Let's move on. Actions. Actions were created to move the needle on the district objective. So these are specific in order to make a difference, and again, see that needle move on district objective. So district objective 2.1, increase the percentage of transfer-directed students who become transfer prepared annually, which Juan just went over. One of the, actually I'm going to put them all up here. Develop and implement an informational campaign and workshops for students on associate degrees for transfer, ADTs, and transfer agreement guarantees. So this is an action, again, to make a difference and see that needle move in District Objective 2.1. The second action for this objective is to map required courses for completion and publish flowcharts for the students so they can easily see what they need to take, what comes next, and see a very clear sequence instead of looking at just a list of courses, which is hard visually for anybody to see. The third action is related to all this, is schedule course sequences so that students can complete their degree requirements in 2 years. So again, getting to that objective is preparing these students, and we've got to sequence these classes so they can get out as quickly as possible and that it makes sense. And then lastly, that you'll see pretty much on every action is part of COS 2.0 is to assess progress and implement recommended changes. Objective 2.2, increase the percentage of students who successfully complete certificates and degrees annually. And you will see there are a number of actions for this. Develop a work plan for implementation of DegreeWorks. DegreeWorks is the new software program that has been purchased by COS in Student Services. So this year is going to be a year of implementation, education, collaboration, and finalize the implementation, develop an informational campaign and workshops for incoming students and for all of us here at COS. This program seems like it'll be able to do many, many things we don't currently have in place right now. For instance, you can see there's real-time interaction with student profiles that the counselors can see as well as the student. So very quickly we can see the progress of a student. And that's just one of many things that it will be able to accomplish. And then again, we're going to assess progress and implement recommended changes. The next district objective, increase the retention rates for first-time students from fall to spring. Whoops, went too fast. Let's see, oh shoot. Uh-oh. Okay, Jennifer's gonna help me out here. All right, okay. Thanks Jennifer. Increase the retention rates for first-time students from fall to spring. We're gonna develop a retention study, and we're gonna look at common variables, not just of students that have not been successful, but also, maybe for a first time, looking at variables of those students that are successful. So looking at both of those factors, what are the common variables, and then we'll concentrate on those variables and see if there are things we can actually take away from that and implement. So that is a, key area as what's going on with these students. Again, not only those students that stay, but also those that leave, and what can we find there that we can work together on. Increase basic skills and English as a second language course success and completion rates. Okay, what we're going to do here is complete an SEP in the first semester, a student educational plan, and that's for all students, even those students that have under 6 units in ESL, basic skills, and CTE. Ensure curriculum is aligned with basic skills and schedule courses to maximize student opportunities. And again, we're looking at a timely sequence. So again, are the courses sequenced so they can get in and out of here and not have breaks because there's not a class available. So very key, you'll kind of see that theme throughout this. And then design and implement proven best practices, such things that we've already started here as pilot projects in prep courses, acceleration, and alternate assessment models. And lastly, increase career technical education, successful course and program completion rates, and implement programs to support students in CTE. So what we're going to do here is, once again, the common theme of get them started and get the students out, make sure the courses are sequenced, that they can easily do that, design and implement proven best practices for success, such as linked learning and embedded basic skills. We have piloted some of these already. Develop and implement career development and college prep programs. Implement the Sequoia's Consortium Plan for alignment of adult ed CTE programs. We've been working on this for about at least a year now, and that plan will be implemented in the fall, and that is working with all our adult education neighbors in a partnership with making, again, an easy thread and an easy pathway from students going from adult ed into COS. Establish linked learning pathway programs. Again, this is a partnership with the high schools. You'll hear like health career academies, business academies, again, making those links with high school students to college. And then lastly, again, assess progress and implement recommended changes. Right.
Thanks, Cindy. Okay, as you recall, we have district goal number 3, which is to strategically tailor and implement our academic programs in order to help our particular students who have a unique set of needs. And when we were looking at the data for this in the master plan, some of the things we looked at were language spoken at home, the poverty rates, the unemployment rates, and one of the statistics that really stood out to us that were over 70% of our students are first generation to college, and so they don't have a lot of information about college literacy, financial literacy, those kinds of things. So there is a specific way we need to alter what we do and how we communicate with our students. So the 2 objectives that we are recommending for this are to first is to look in our student equity plan and work on reducing the gap for our students, for disproportionately impacted students. And so the student equity plan is a state mandate for us. We had to look across the board at our students and see if there were any populations that were impacted differently on a numerous areas, and so that is the first one that we want to look at. And the second one, objective 3.2, that we're recommending is to provide training for all of us, faculty and staff, and on how to work with our students who have unique needs. So how do we work, how might you differentiate your teaching or something for a first generation student? And for staff, we know that most students, first time students, maybe meet 7 staff members before they ever see a faculty member. So how do you communicate, or how do you work with a student, a first generation student who doesn't have a lot of information about college? What kinds of things can we do to help that student? So those are our recommended objectives for district goal number 3, and Jonna Shingle is going to talk to you about the actions.
Jennifer's going to flick for me. So again, actions are the specific boots on the ground activities that we are going to do that are going to move the needle to help us reduce our achievement gap and also to improve our academic and student services. So the actions for 3.1, we're going to implement the strategies that are in the student equity plan. It's about a 150-page document. It's based on data and research, and it's on the website. And there's about 10 specific actions. And I'm not going to read them to you because they're not actually in the strategic plan. We're just referring to that great work. A lot of those action plans are very specific to student services, to counseling, to tutoring, all things that make COS a great institution. They're just very specifically going to be measured and assessed that they're actually moving the needle. So instead of just doing good things and hoping they work, the student equity plan is going to define and codify and measure that what we're doing is actually making students in the achievement gap more successful. So the student equity plan, although it's some dense reading, it's actually a very exciting document. I encourage you to read it. And then we're going to make sure, like Cindy said, is that a good sell for the equity plan? And then we're going to also assess and make sure that what we do in the equity plan actually moves the needle, because it's silly for us to keep doing things over and over and over and not improving student success. So that's why the equity plan is written so specifically, and that's why the strategic plan is not necessarily listing those things out one by one. But we will be looking at the assessment plan. That's part of the strategic plan's objective and action, is to look at the student equity plan and make sure that what it's doing is improving student success. Our next action is really geared more towards what faculty and staff can do. So the student equity plan is more geared to things that we're going to do for students, services we're going to provide to students, and the actions for 3.2 are more the action things that we're going to do for ourselves to improve our ability to serve these students that are in the achievement gap. We're going to research and propose faculty development so that we can really look at best practices. What classes do these students succeed in? What do they have in common? What can we train ourselves to do better? We're already doing a lot right. We just need to identify those and teach new faculty and other people coming on board, working with students, how to really address those students' needs. And then we also want to look at staff development. Like Jennifer said, a lot of our students interact with many other staff, secretaries, registration, financial aid, library, before they ever actually interact with a faculty person. And we know that it's their engagement on the campus that makes students successful. So we want to make sure that everybody is kind of doing things the right way and knows how to help students succeed in all their interactions with staff. So we're going to do some staff development, and also just even customer service. Just really, it boils down to how friendly we are when they see us on campus, if they want to persist from one semester to the next, and if they're willing to kind of stay when the going gets tough, if they feel like there's someone here that's of good encouragement to them. And then we're going to also just assess, does the training that we are doing for our faculty and our staff, is it really moving the needle and helping our students be more successful? Those are our action plans for 3.1 and 3.2. And now Thea's going to go with District Objective 4 and action plans.
District Goal 4 was the goal that was developed after feedback from the summit on the master plan last year. It was the addition to the rest of the goals. This goal is primarily directed at the college. our systems, ourselves, to make sure that we continuously improve. One of the things we learned through going through the trial of show cause and then warning and yay, now fully accredited, is that we have to really focus on our own processes and make sure that our processes are allowing us to help our students succeed. And one of the terms that you see throughout accreditation is in this one, continuous improvement. One of the things that the standards stress is that just because you do it doesn't mean you can't do it better. So you always have to keep striving to be better. And that's what these objectives are about. You'll recall from when Greg had up our planning model, he didn't mention it, but right in the center was data. That is the center of all of our decision making and all of our planning, is using data to actually make the decisions. So that's our first objective, is that we want to make sure that we're actually doing that. Are we making decisions based on data? Are we doing that? The second is to actually identify best practices, either that we're currently doing or that maybe we see at some other college or we hear about at a conference, and then seeing whether or not it's going to work for us. So can we continuously improve? For the actions for District Objective 4.1, we have a couple of really important ones. One is to actually look at the decisions we made, look at the data that was discussed before that decision was made, and then look at whether or not we impacted what we were hoping to impact based on that decision. So let's just follow the needle, follow how we're doing with that. The next, we've actually already begun, and that is to have professional development on the data that's available, and then how to use data in a valid manner. And then again, we'll assess and implement the recommendations. District Objective 4.2, the actions for that one is to identify any current issues or that might be in any of our services that we provide. And then to actually try and develop strategies to address anything that we identify in our systems that might be problematic. And then finally to implement those strategies. And then after implementation, again, look back at whether or not we have been able to move that needle. Have we made it better? So those are the objectives and actions for District Goal 4.
Okay, so that is the quick and dirty overview of the recommended objectives and actions for the strategic plan. And Greg Turner and I, we co-chair the Institutional Planning and Effectiveness Committee. And like I said, we'll be meeting next Thursday to review all of the input from the summit that was held last Saturday, as well as any input that comes from today's forum. So if you're here in Ponderosa, then you have a handout, and you can write any suggestions at the bottom of the handout, and you can leave it here today, or you could email it to us or drop it off to Conti C in the president's office. And for those of you who are watching live streaming, then I emailed that form out today as well, and you can go ahead and print it or fill it out online or email it to Conti C, and we will take that into consideration next Thursday. So again, what's going to happen is we'll look at all of the input. We're going to make we'll look at all the recommendations, the revisions, their critiques, and just determine how to incorporate those into the current draft. And then we will be sending that next draft forward to get District Governance Senate and Academic Senate through our regular governance processes. And so in April, those will be going forward, and we'll have yet another chance to give some input. And it should get finalized and go to the board by the June board meeting. So that is the process, the next steps for that. And so are there any questions right now? Anywhere? Okay, I think we're good. So I want to really thank everybody for taking time out of their day-to-day to join us. And part of our whole planning and all of our model and governance is getting input across the board on numerous things. And so we appreciate your input and your feedback, and have a great rest of the day. Thanks to all our presenters, too.